Hello, Swindon Town fans, and welcome to the Fools Rush In podcast, attacked by the fans, for the fans. And I've had it scripted after the debacle last week. I have to sign this intro off with anyone who doesn't like this introduction. I am delighted. As you can see, everyone's in good humour. Ned's disappeared. Rich has frozen. It's all turned to shit 30 seconds into the episode. But we are here, goddammit, and we are going to talk everything we can possibly get through STFC related.
He has frozen.
So you could take your serious podcasts and your serious vlogs, and you can. He's gone.
We should do this again, really. Should we do the start again?
Yeah. No, I refuse to start again. This is quality content, and we're keeping it.
Okay.
Ben, Ben's about the only one managing to keep it together to an extent at the moment. So let's jump straight in with the win at the weekend, and let's talk about what was a solid performance and a good result.
Yeah, no, it was a good 3-1 comfortable win, as most of us predicted. But yeah, it was a good result against a poor team. Job done. Played pretty well, looked pretty solid. Disappointed at the goal at the end. Could have won by more. Nice to see Simpson get a couple of goals.
Yeah,
sensible comment.
Definitely was, particularly as he's a player that most on these episodes have sort of built up more than put down over the course of the campaign so far. So it's always nice to see him notch a few. Rich is back. How's the connection, mate? Are you actually with us, or just going to pose for different pictures throughout the episode? Excellent. It's for exactly this reason why Rich was voted one of the coolest members of the podcast.
Coolest.
It's because he's so chill. Just doesn't care. It has to be said, and we will obviously focus on the game throughout, particularly the first half of this episode. But Ned, one of the things that a lot of people commented on social media was how well observed the silence was before the game.
Yeah, it seemed to take forever and a day to actually start the minute, didn't it? But I mean, I love all that, and I'm glad it's respected. And I'm sure Manchester is I say Manchester, just on the outskirts of Manchester, is very much supportive of the forces and stuff. So yeah, I mean that was really good. But they didn't. The one thing I would say is they didn't have it didn't look like they rehearsed that in any capacity, because I watched that on iFollow, and there was a lot of confusion. But it was, observed impeccably.
And from what you were able to witness on iFollow, what was your takeaway from the game?
Well, unfortunately, I missed a lot of the second half due to having to put up a shed. So if you want the ins and outs of how to put up a shed, don't speak to me anyway, because it's a fucking disgrace. But the first half, sorry Fifey, sorry fine. Mr. Cool. I mean, the first half was absolute pure control, wasn't it? It was men against boys in the first half. I think. I have to say, I really did like two of their players. Two of their players were really good. I thought that, considering he's spent most of his career in the non-leagues, that Piergianni at the back, he looked pretty decent, and he would be if he become available, because Oldham have to sell everyone, I would suggest that we purchase him, because he won everything in the air. He was dangerous. Whether it's attacking or defending, he was pretty dangerous. And also that young, was it left or right back, Kuto? I thought he had a really solid game as well. He looked really decent. He's only young. I think he's 17 or 18 or something. But yeah, I mean, I thought everyone played really well. I thought, to be honest, it was a bit of a masterstroke putting in Baldry instead of Odemeo, because he was marking Bahambula, wasn't he? So, and he's a pretty tall lad. I thought we would have, Oldham would have struggled against him. So I thought that was a good move. But yeah, it was a good all-round performance that I saw. And yeah, 3-1, great result. Honestly, last year before, someone said you went to Oldham, got 3 points and 3 goals, would have bitten your hands off, because that's typically not a place that we do massively well at. So happy days.
And Kieran, on the subject of the goals, it's been a contentious point that perhaps we're not as efficient or prolific in front of goal at times as we could be. So it's always nice to see, the score getting up sort of 3, 4, 5 where we can, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nice to see us win a game. Well, again, we've only 2 goals, but we scored 3 goals. I think we haven't done that for a while. The last time I rode was a couple of weeks ago, was the last time. But yeah, I don't think we've been clinical enough at points this season. But I don't think away from home that's been an issue. Away from home, we can score goals and we can win games. Like, we all know the home form for some reason an issue. But it's good to see like Simpson getting in amongst goals. I think he could have easily had a hat-trick on Saturday, but I think one of his best chances came before he'd scored one of them. And I think he's very much reminds me of someone like Andy Williams, who is a confident striker. Once he starts scoring and he goes through a run, he'll score goals like there's no tomorrow. And as soon as he hits that bad patch, he looks like he's going to struggle for weeks, and just looks, in his whole game sort of looks terrible and stuff. And then he goes, and hopefully now this is him kicking on again, and he's going to get a few goals the next few weeks and sort of kick on. I still do think we need a striker. I think at times when he does score, it masks up the issue, but I think we will be looking in January, given the run that he's been on. We've been lucky that we've had midfielders score. But yeah, it's nice to see us score goals. And it's nice to see the strikers getting on the score sheet for the first time in what feels like a little while, for sort of both forward players to get on the score sheet.
And I think that alludes into a point that I saw you tweeting about, doesn't it, Ben, about the need for a striker in January? Ben, you took yourself off mute and then muted yourself again.
No, it's important to get another striker, just to give him some support and just to give him some time off. I think he's been a little bit, I think we're doing him more damage than any good, actually, just making him play for 90 minutes week in, week out. A 19-year-old, he needs a break. He gets a lot of criticism because we forget he's 19 and we're judging him like he's our only striker when it's unfair. I think, I can't wait to January, because I think we'll get someone in early, so I hope we do pick someone up. And
obviously, we went into it, Woody, as favourites to win, I would suggest. We got the result that was expected. Important result to keep us in a good position in the league as we head towards, the stereotyped busy festive period and then the all-important January transfer window. And it's just about building momentum at this stage, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, and I think also having the good momentum ready going into the FA Cup as well.
Yeah.
Because like the FA Cup's going to be a one-off game, obviously, and then it's hoping that we can pick it up on the back of that. And I think the Simpson point is very valid that Kieran made in terms of we do need another striker, and it is to remove that reliance on him being the only person who scores, if you like. But yeah, I was glad. I mean, he should have had a hat trick. I believe that the third goal should not have been disallowed. I believe. But yeah, it's and we can look at Oldham's situation, etc., etc. But as I think it was Ned said, you look at Oldham have always been a difficult place to go, regardless of what their situation is. So it's a very good 3 points. Sounded like we dominated the game, really had control of the game. You could argue that maybe they didn't deserve to score, which is unheard of. I am struggling with this kind of thing that people are saying that we're not prolific enough and things like that. I can only recall 2 games this season where we haven't scored. So it's for me, if we score, whether you score 1 and win the game or whether you score 4 and win the game, you're still scoring goals. But yeah, we do just want to. I think we will be a lot more attractive in January to a better, not a better striker, but a more experienced striker. So that's why the momentum is just as important, to attract people will want to come to us potentially on a lower wage if we're at the right end of the table.
Yeah, because I don't think it's we're not prolific enough in front of goal, because we have scored goals every game. I think it's we don't score enough goals to seemingly kill games off at times. We make it more difficult for ourselves by keeping these sort of 1-goal leads till quite late on and not managing to sort of kill that sort of second or third goal off. There's been a few games where we've managed to come out of it, but it's looked a bit risky in doing it. But I think there's only 2 or 3 games we haven't scored in this season, so we're scoring goals. I think it's as well the strikers aren't prolific enough.
Is the word prolific, and I think in terms of how I'm using it when I say it, more in terms of conversion of chances created?
Yeah, but I think also you've got to be very careful of using the word prolific, because yes, it is a conversion of chances, but I think prolific changes its meaning as you get further down the pyramid. For me, prolific is about whether they're just scoring goals, not necessarily, because at the end of the day, if Tyrese Simpson had a 90% conversion rate or 80% conversion rate, he wouldn't be playing League Two.
Very true.
So for me, prolific is like the reason we spotted Charlie Austin. He was prolific in there was nothing, we had no stats that when he was at Poole, when he was scoring 40 odd goals or whatever, he was probably still missing 3 or 4 chances each game, before he scored. And Simon Cox was the same. It was like Simon Cox, you could argue, wasn't very prolific because he took a long time to score goals. He'd have like 5 or 6 chances before he'd get his shot away. So, but I think prolific we should be looking at is just somebody who's got a good goal scoring tally, and that's why someone like a Jose, someone like that kind of manner, would be ideal in January.
No, completely agree. And I just want to give a mention to Gavin Chappell on Twitter, who is one of the regular ones replying to anything that goes out from our Twitter feed. He's always putting in match predictions when we ask for scores and stuff. And he actually got it bang on this week. So, and when I said any comments for this week, he said, will I get a mention for getting this score correct? So here is your mention. Congratulations to you.
Legend. He's out in the United Arab Emirates, isn't he, Mr. Chappell?
I mean,
golf course.
Your knowledge of where our supporters are located is a lot more stalker level than mine, to be honest.
That guy from you, he's knockoff guy from you.
Let's just see how many different Netflix series we can reference throughout the episode, shall we?
It's a bit like a good game.
Now, if we can take matters off the pitch for a moment, and needless to say, social media blew up at least twice this week, and it all revolved around a certain Mr. McKirdy. Now, first of all, and it was all very funny as he went one-on-one with one of our own, shall we say, as him and Christian had a little conversation, shall we say. And it was all very amusing for everyone involved, except maybe Christian, who, as everyone will notice, is not here tonight. But he has provided a sick note. He's not shying away, fearing backlash for anything he might say. He's genuinely ill, tucked up in bed. However, we've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, unfortunately, over the course of this week, as the funny content between McKirdy and Christian then turned a bit sour after comments made by the same player about the Swindon Town women's team. And it has seen him now come off Twitter, seemingly. He's still using his Instagram account. We understand there was a conversation between him and the club. So I think it's important to look at both sides separately. So Kieran, I'll come to you on the humorous side of it in what we saw between him and Christian, because we were all having a laugh about it on WhatsApp, and obviously a lot of fans were jumping on it on Twitter as well, weren't they?
Yeah, I think there was a certain point of it. I think the first one was fair, where he called him Jack Frost. The tweeting of the photo, again, you need to be careful with that being a footballer. He doesn't necessarily have known Christian's stance within the Swindon Town fan base, in that he is a controversial figure, but it does create a bit of because all my Twitter feed after that was seen all day was people slagging off one side of the party but not the other. And I think you do have to be careful when you are a footballer or anyone that's got a little bit of power and a bit of a fan following, because it can get quite nasty for the person on the end of that. The first one was funny and it had the reaction that he needed to. The tweeting of the photo and going on about it, being a footballer isn't necessarily what he needed to do. Like, it was funny, and quite a lot of the stuff he was tweeting was funny and harmless. Maybe that one was a bit bordering on it still, even just because you're creating a pile on one person there, which I don't think's ever right. It was almost from other people as well, as amounting to almost bullying. And I know people have got their own opinions on Christian and other people and stuff, but I think it was amounting to bullying. I think it was, and there was a lot of stuff going against him when he hadn't really done a lot in comparison. He slagged off a player. Harry McKirdy defended his friend and then took it, I think, that little bit too far of it. But yeah, some stuff was on there, I think he just needed, and as per they've done the academy players, which is really good, giving them training on social media and a bit of media training. I think they could do that with Mr. McKirdy, because even some of this stuff, his Instagram and stuff, it borders on a little bit. You've got to be careful as a footballer or anyone with a little bit of sort of in the public eye with those sorts of things.
And then on a more serious note, Woody, we had the negative side of what, of what is social media and the negative comments towards the women's team. And if we look at it as a two-part thing, let's talk about that specifically. As someone representing Swindon Town as he is, it's not something we would want to see, particularly as the club are actively trying to promote the women's team.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one, because you do wonder that those type of comments come up all the time.
Yeah.
Like, it's a common challenge in the women's game, and sometimes you just a lot of people take it on the chin. I think with that particular situation, it was more the fact that he saw it as a joke, when it wasn't a joke. It was an idiotic comment that he was trying to get his fan base to like. And then he got onto the fact of saying that people were getting easily offended and all that. There wasn't many people actually getting offended by it. They just generally thought it was a stupid comment. But then there was that kind of loose apology as well, which I think pissed everybody off. And then there was the snide comments afterwards. And that's what got me. That's what annoyed me, was the kind of snide comments afterwards. In terms of, because, he said, I'd rather watch paint dry. As in the grand scheme of things, we've heard that comment probably a million times in women's football, but he's a figurine of the club, and the club are trying to push the women's game, and that just doesn't help. And I just, if I distract back to what my normal day job is in terms of a HR rep, there's people that I know that have been fired for things like that. So it's because there's a reason why businesses outroll these social media policies and all that kind of stuff now, because even that is a form of bullying in some extent. And what annoyed me the most as well was people going, oh, it was just a joke. It just nobody, like, the women's were pissed off about it. The players were really pissed off about it. There's no doubt about that. But they weren't getting offended as such. They just thought it was a really stupid comment to make as a representative of the club. It's a stupid comment to make anyway, because 9 times out of 10 when people say that, they've not actually watched a game of women's football. So it's a stupid comment to make anyway. My view on it, in terms of him, I couldn't care less whether he plays in a Swindon shirt again. Now I've lost complete respect for him on my point of view, because, and again, if he had just come out and said, you know what, sorry, that comment was a bit stupid, I shouldn't have said it, that could have been water under the bridge a little bit. But it was all the afters of going onto Instagram and calling people on Twitter snowflakes and all this kind of stuff. Now, I'm not an easily offended person, so I kind of always understand the snowflake argument, but it's just inappropriate. And I, if I'm brutally honest, I don't think the club have addressed it very well either. But it is what it is at the end of the day. Mike Peacock, who I'm sure many saw, had an exchange with him. He's a representative of the women's club, a very well-respected member of the, he works with Paralympians, he's worked with Olympians, he worked with some of the swimmers that have just won gold medals in Tokyo and all that kind of stuff. So he's a very well-respected person in sport. And, he made some brilliant points to him that were just like, what you don't understand is the influence that you've had by making this comment. And that's where this kind of media training that the academy had, as Kieran said, the academy had this media training, but the first team probably need it just as much. So it's it just seems that it's that kind of, it's been accepted. And that's what I don't like about it. It seems like it's just been accepted And what makes me laugh is it's all these fans that are going, "Oh, McKirdy's a goat," and all this kind of stuff. The moment he has 3 bad games in a row, all of those fans will turn on him.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, as much as it pains me to say as a Swindon fans are probably the most fickle at doing things like that. So that's what made me chuckle about the situation, is all these people that were, siding with him, and all this kind of stuff will be the same people that turn their backs on him when he has a few bad games. So it was an inappropriate comment. But the other thing is it's the knock-on effect from that. So that's the attitude of a person who represents Swindon Town Football Club. If you look at the other side of the comments, the game was called off. The first thing that people thought about when the game was called off was, oh, that's because they don't want the women's to cut out their pitch. There's no doubt that was in 99% of people's mind. The game, there was probably there was something wrong with the pitch. It was waterlogged. But that's not what people see and what people think. And McKirdy's comments just spur on those thoughts. So it just has a constant knock-on effect at the challenges that women's football is facing. So yeah, it was a stupid, inappropriate comment. He's not going to get my support for the rest of the season just because of the way he reacted afterwards. So, I couldn't care less if he gets, if he's suspended for the next game and somebody comes in and takes his place. I want him to play well, but I couldn't care less about him anymore. That's my personal view on him.
And obviously, it then becomes part of a wider conversation, doesn't it? And if I can ask you, based on your experience, we as a collective have made a conscious decision. Every week, we like to give you the opportunity to talk about Swindon Town women as a thing. We like to promote them where possible, retweeting their stuff as Facebook as well, and engaging. And perhaps in the future, an episode specifically looking at women's football is something I might be interested in doing. But there is generally this. Well, no, that would be unfair. There is, to a degree, in a certain percentage of fan bases, not just at Swindon, but throughout football, there's still this negative representation of women's football. In your experience, what can be done? Educate is the wrong word, but what can be done to promote the positives so that we stop seeing this paint dry comments, it's women's football, it's substandard? Because even if you take the Swindon Town element out of it, I mean, I've been fortunate. I've been to I've seen England women play. Every now and then I'll put Women's Super League on Sky or whatever. It's getting more of a media push, and you know what? The games themselves are fine to watch. You don't. It's not like you're watching a subpar product at all.
Yeah, and I think exposure is the key thing on any element. Like every single element is something. Even if you don't like, I mean, we know Christian isn't a big fan of women's football, but you saw how much last week he said, this is good for the town. This is good for, that was surprised us all, didn't it? Let's be honest. He does. It's not that he's against women's football; he just doesn't like it. And it's the thing is, it's fine.
Which is fine.
Yeah, it's fine not to like women's football. That's but to aim it at a situation where you're discouraging people from watching it because of your own opinion. And that's the only thing I would ask people to change, is that if you don't like football, just stay quiet. Women's football, just stay quiet and don't watch it. Don't comment on it, because there's just no need. Because the thing that always makes me laugh is every time, I don't know, I think there was a few weeks back, a Lithuanian defender or something passed back to a goalkeeper and it went through the goalkeeper's legs. And I just think it's funny. Yeah, it's funny as a football match. It's not funny as a women's football match. It's funny as a football match.
Could quite easily take that and just say, do you remember the Peter Enkelman from the throw-in?
Exactly. And you go watch local football. Kieran will tell you it happens quite a lot. In terms
our own keeper. Our own keeper did that last season.
Exactly. And I think I'm not saying treat women's football as its own sport, because it's not. It's just
football.
It's just football. And for me, the fact that we've got the little bit of exposure on this is great. The fact that the club in themselves was involved is great. The fact it's now on BBC mainstream is great. All of that kind of stuff is just all going to help towards it. The thing is with the women's game is, in terms of a community feel, what a lot of people don't see is the women's game actually probably gives a lot more than what the men's game does. So when you think about schools tickets and all this kind of stuff, you go to a women's England game, I guarantee you that 60%, I know they're trying to not get rid of the tickets, but trying to, use the tickets. There's a lot more schools there than there would be at a boys' game, because that's where they're going, right, we need to appreciate the future fan base,
Mhm.
you know, and we need to appreciate that these people are all coming out and playing. And I think what a lot of people are forgetting, and the education piece is important, that women's football was banned in 1921 or whatever it was. It was banned. Women weren't allowed to play football. And then it was only reinstated about 50 years later. So, or 40 years later. So I think people sometimes forget that the whole idea of developing the women's game has been stalled
Yeah.
by nearly half a century. You know, and I just think that it's not, you know, you go to, I mean, all you guys are workers, you know, you probably get told about unconscious bias training and all this kind of stuff. It's not about that. It's about just having an informal chat with somebody to say, what are the challenges you face in women, you know, as a women's footballer? Because there are some bloody good women's footballers out there. You know, you look at one who's playing for Wales at the moment, Georgia Walters. She's been in and around the Swindon scene. She's now at Liverpool. I'm telling you now, she's played in some sixer sides with me, and she's given men a run for their money. You know, so it's just about getting rid of that. Oh, they're a woman. They belong in the kitchen. They belong in this. You know, they shouldn't be playing football. That's a load of bollocks. Women have been doing sport for years. Like, don't, you know, just get rid of that attitude. If you don't like the women's game, just don't watch it. If you do like the women's game, push and push it. And that's the only way it's going to get bigger and better. It's the fastest growing sport on the planet for a reason.
Yeah.
So,
I
you know,
find funny with, like you said about other athletes, there's hundreds of women's athletes across all of it. Football and maybe rugby and maybe cricket, sort of, but team sports that are just traditionally dominated by men, are always the ones that get sort of pushed back. Oh, it's a women's one. But you don't see like Jessica Ennis, and she was winning gold at London 2012, going, oh, what about the next best British male heptathlete or whatever she was?
Yeah.
I can't remember, not with her, but you know, you don't get, and the same with swimmers, you don't go, oh yeah, but Rebecca thingy was, she's not
Adlington.
great. Adlington, she's not as great as our next British. I know more women, you know, sometimes I know more women's sort of swimmers and runners and stuff, just because they've done better than the men's ones and they've got that exposure. And there's never that as much stigma around them as there is team sports of football. So why is there that? There shouldn't be that with team sports and other sports. Just really appreciate that they're actually good, and there are some very good women's footballers, and same rugby and cricket as well. There's some that are a lot better than a lot of men out there. And I probably if I went to play against our team, went to play against the women's team that I play sort of Saturday Sundays with, we'd probably get beat by a majority of them at a similar level, if not definitely a higher level.
and I think the most important thing is that clubs, and I won't go on too long because otherwise we'll lose half of our listeners. but the you know, it's the key thing is club involvement more than anything. You know, like, I know I'm not wearing Swindon colours tonight, I'm wearing Abingdon colours. But one thing that I was always proud of at Abingdon, they were a small club, but they treated their women's footballers exactly the same as their males. In fact, arguably, they treated us probably a little bit better because we brought more money in. But it's you know, seeing Swindon trying to make these movements, you know, they're trying to incorporate us. There's talks about us having the same kit, having the same sponsors and all that. And then you get some dickhead who just goes, oh, they'll rather watch paint dry. You know, it's things like that. Every club can have the capacity for a women's football team. Every club. Any club that owns their own facility, for me, can have their own women's football team. And to be fair, I'd put my hand up and help them set it up. If it meant for the exposure of getting women's clubs out there, and more women in the pyramid, more girls playing football, because most of the girls that I've coached have normally come from boys' teams. They've normally started out in boys' teams, which is fine, because arguably there is that physical difference. It makes them stronger and all this. That's fine. But the girls' football section, for example, my team, my league, there's 5 teams in that league. And you've got to ask yourself why. So,
Yeah.
You know,
And just one final one, moving away from attitudes in women's football and stuff. Obviously, as you alluded to earlier, the game was postponed, the one that we've been talking about for a few weeks now. I know that was only, 24 hours or just over 24 hours ago. Do we know what the situation is? Like, is there a new date? Will the new date be the one that's at the county ground, or will they be looking for a different game to be at the county ground?
it really depends on a couple of things. What the league rearranged the fixture as, because I mean, obviously, it's arranged on a Tuesday night in the winter. You can kind of understand the club maybe not wanting to host that, which is fine. You know, we ain't got a problem with that. There will be more games at the county. I'm very confident. Rob Angus is very strong on his words in terms. He loves the women's game. He's a massive fan of Swindon Town women, so I think it will happen. Whether it'll be Exeter again, I don't know. It would make sense to be Exeter because obviously people had bought tickets before, and it's just easier to say you can get into the next Exeter game. But there will be some. I think probably now I wouldn't say it'll probably happen till after the new into the new year, but it will happen. I'm confident it will. Rob Angus is a man of his word, as we've found out throughout this takeover, and as is Clem. Clem is a massive fan, and in Australia, women's football's huge. So I think he can see the value that it could potentially bring. And the quicker we get playing on that pitch, the bigger names we attract, the more money we bring in, the bigger crowds we bring in, and then it all starts to pay for itself then. And we've got good sponsors coming in, and we've got sponsors coming in now because of the men's club being so community feel. They think, we're going to get this connection now. So, but it will happen. It will happen. It's just a case of who it's against, I guess.
And as for your team, I believe another positive result for you guys at the weekend.
Yeah, we won 5-0. It's only about our fourth game we played this season due to COVID, etc. We just arranged a friendly because it's half term, so everybody's away. So I just arranged a friendly. We had quite a convincing win. Obviously, 5-0 is a good win in any situation. But now I'm trying to arrange a game for this Saturday because, like I say, the numbers are so low in the leagues that it's a case of trying to arrange friendlies now as opposed to league games all the time. But it's what it is. The girls are patient. The girls are loving playing for Swindon Town at the end of the day. And, they were invited to the meeting with Clem and Rob Angus. And, that meant a lot to them, to have the owner of Swindon Town actually talking to them and telling them how much he values it. So hopefully the lack of league games won't make them lose interest because they're a great group of girls. But yes, so and then hopefully, never mind, I've got potentially by the next game, 4 or 5 that will be 16. So they might even be playing on the county ground pitch by the time the next game plays. So who knows? You mentioned Rob Angus a couple of times there. I was fortunate enough, the time we record this, I was able to watch the Monday Night Club prior to us recording. And he obviously featured on there. Another interesting show with lots of good discussion points. And there was a couple I just wanted to pick up on to get your guys' opinions, if I can. Starting with something that I think, Kieran, you actually mentioned in our WhatsApp chat before we went live as well, the next set of international fixtures, and they were discussing whether there might be a postponement for the Crawley game if we get the amount of call-ups expected.
Yeah, because obviously, Johnny Williams has gone, and it depends. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at. I don't know if the under 20s have got fixtures this time for Ireland and England respectively. But obviously, if they have, I imagine Alex Gilbert could quite possibly be off, and obviously Kane Kesler Hayden as well. And again, I'm not sure the situation with obviously we've got Anthony Grant with Jamaica, whether they've got any fixtures and whether they'd get out. I imagine there are some. Possibly, but I know some of the sort of African American teams have slightly different scheduling, but may have friendlies, and also Jojo Woolacott as well. So I don't know. Obviously, last time we couldn't call it off because we'd agreed with Sky and got the money from it that we couldn't do because unless it's extreme circumstances. But I if it's the same set of players that go again for one game, I wouldn't possibly call it off because they've all proved that they can step into it. And again, it's a very, very good opportunity for them to come into the squad and prove that they're worth it. And I don't think we've got bad sort of strength and depth. And I think with the players that are going, we have got replacements for them all. I'd be a bit more worried, for example, Tyree Simpson going, who you've got as your one and only striker near enough.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was a depend at the time where the cut-off date, what if there's any injuries within the squad and suspensions coming up as well, I imagine, what squad will have coming out. But if we have a similar situation going into that Forest, as we did into the Forest Green game, where we've got pretty much that similar sort of squad, I'd give it a go. Because, okay, it's not necessarily most ideal as manager not having every player available to you, but the players have proved that they can do it. But also, I think we're coming into a very, very busy time of year. And obviously, we're looking likely to go through in the Johnston's Paint Trophy or Papa John's Trophy now as well. And we want if we want an FA Cup run as well, that's more game. Obviously, the December one, round 2 is a sort of free hit. No games called on for that weekend anyway. But then if you got into the third round, that's another game called off. And then if it comes to the next set of internationals and we're sort of getting to the closing stages of the season, maybe that's when you look to call a game off to rest up or get it. So yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see what they do, but I'm not for calling it off at this stage if we have a similar squad to what the Forest Green one is when it comes to the cut-off date.
Okay, and And then the next one I picked up on, Ned, I'll bring you in. I'm not sure if any of you guys tend to go in there, but there's been quite a bit on social media, particularly last couple of home games. And they spent a bit of time discussing the issues, particularly with getting into the Arkle stand at the moment. And they were explaining that it's got very similar capacity, obviously, to Don Rogers, but there's about half the amount of turnstiles. Obviously the issue with ticketing going into the season and how it was kind of rushed through, and they were explaining all the different logistical issues with it. And you know, the guys that were on, they were saying they're working on it. They've got people coming in, they're trying to fix various things, but the main thing they were sort of asking people to do was just give themselves an extra 10-15 minutes to get into the ground, start turning up sort of 10, quarter, 20 past 2, as opposed to quarter to 3, 10 to 3. They were saying, obviously, the location of that particular stand, when you look at the other main stand, there's a lot more open space for people, so it doesn't appear as crowded. Where do you stand on it, Ned?
Well, I mean, it's difficult for me to comment on the Arkles because, you know, if I go typically, I'll be Townend or I'll be in the Don Rogers, so it's difficult for me to comment on that one. But you know, obviously from the experience of going in and queuing in the Don Rogers, my God, it's just insane. I mean, I can't remember what it was, what time it was when I met up with the guys last time, but the queues were there way before like past. It was about 15:15 when the queue started to get really big, and it's difficult to know what the solution is really, other than creating more turnstiles, you know, having, you know, God knows how many more employees, and there's only so much you can do. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what the holdup was, but when we was going in, it seemed to be quite smooth, and they were taking steps to, you know, instead of checking people's bags as they come, they were working their way up the line and handing out the wristbands. So that was a good step, but it's difficult to know what to do to make a massive difference. As you said, there's only just a roadway, isn't there? You know, there's so much less space, and it would be, as it's sort of going off subject a little bit, it'd be interesting to see with the ground purchase. Sorry, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, can you hear you fine?
Yeah.
Okay. It'd be interesting to see with the ground purchase whether that includes the cricket ground, because I had I can't remember where I heard it from, but many years ago when we spoke previously about purchasing the ground from the council, I'm sure it included the cricket ground, and it would then lead to Swindon relocating Swindon Cricket Club as well. So I can't remember exactly when that was or who said that, but I seem to remember that being the case. And also, if we was to you know, take up that option, should we say? I mean, it's gonna. I mean, obviously that would be open. You would have all the that cricket ground takes up a huge amounts of space. You would also have another. Oh, sorry, I'm waiting on. I do apologise. I don't mean to go on about that, but it's just an interesting point, because if Clem was mentioning previously about you know, building a hotel and all these facilities and stuff, obviously they got to go somewhere, haven't they? So it'd be interesting to see whether the cricket ground is part of the purchase as well. If we could have that space, sorry, if we could have that space, then that would allow us to build more facilities to be able to get people through quicker. But it's I just can't see what we could do to speed things through apart from just have more turnstiles. But I don't know how that would solve the problems. I mean, for me, the biggest problems in the Don Rogers was half time. Just queuing up and queuing up and queuing up. It was just ridiculous. And I know that's going to roll up a lot of people.
I forgot to remember my beer solution that I sort of never followed up with the other week. I saw something when someone went to Stamford Bridge. You get, like, do you know, like, you get train tickets where you pay for your own train tickets, like, instead of having the peasant do it for it that works at the train station, instead of having one of the staff do it for you, so you can all you guys you go
just to not alienate anyone, unless I'm completely misunderstanding, I've always bought my own train tickets. I don't have a peasant that does them for me.
Yeah, you do it for me, Steve. Was it plane tickets?
That's not train tickets though, is it, mate?
Yeah, that's not.
But anyway, before I
That
get
train or plane?
So when you go into when not the self-serve check-ins, but yeah, so you go in as you go into this ground. It's at Stamford Bridge, I think it was. You can order your beers for half time on them. We should do that. Like, that'd be a clever idea.
So just pre-ordering drinks is the big idea. That revolutionary idea that's been around for about 50 years.
Well, why is it not in the fucking Don Rogers? It took us 2 days to get a beer. We nearly missed the best part of the game, which was the.
Oh, the problem that I saw in the Don Rogers was the fact there's only one person taking payments. That was the problem.
Yeah,
you need 3 or 4 people.
And
that was ridiculous.
This would probably be a question that I would have generally directed in towards Rich if he was still on with us. But Ben, I'll throw it over to you. It was interesting what they were discussing then when it comes to the upcoming fixture with Newport. They were saying about how with them obviously being Welsh-based club, there's different rules there with regards to needing to have lateral flow tests, COVID passports. Are saying there's still the possibility of that coming into the I say the English game, but the English-based teams within the pyramid. And obviously the club will communicate what does and does not need to happen. But it is worth, bearing in mind, despite everything, it's great having fans back. It's great that life is beginning to get somewhere back to, where it was 18, 24 months ago. But we are still living in a time where COVID is a reality. And yes, it might just be an away game at Newport, but obviously they were saying Cardiff and Swansea obviously doing it as well. Ipswich have been doing it voluntarily. And it's just making people aware that there will be different protocols if you are one of the, I think they said we got about 1,000 allocation for Newport away. So if you're one of those 1,000, being aware of what will be different for this particular game.
It gets all a bit political, really, and it depends whether you're, into this COVID passport or not. It may be something that we'll have to dip into in January, February time, where cases will be high again. I don't know. You need your crystal ball to see into it. It will be something that, if it gets critical, I'd rather that than the alternative of just locking up again and having no fans. I think that's the last thing we want to do. But if needs must. So I don't think it's something we should do really unless we have to. And everyone's giving me weird looks. What's going on?
We're not giving you weird looks. We think Kieran was doing an impression of looking in a crystal ball and then randomly started to decide to display how flexible he was. For no obvious reason.
69.
Right, yeah. It's the COVID thing, what's going on. It depends really what happens. It's maybe an eye into the future, what football might have to be for the next year or two if cases go bad. We just don't want to be locked up again. We don't want empty stadiums. So if needs must, needs must.
We come to the point in the week, Woody, where I'm sure you're very well prepped with the fancy Premier League update for us. I'm guessing Kieran didn't do as well this week, given that he's not been bleating on about it for the last few days.
Top. That's what still top, and still got 10 players to come in to give me 10 extra points. But, he's not caught me.
Yeah, he's doing all right, isn't he? Yeah, so he's got. I've now climbed up to second. And he's 20 points ahead, plus the 10 because Henderson's coming in. You had Ramsdale on the bench though, you silly twat.
Yeah, took Ben White out, and I used my free hit, took Ben White out and Cristiano Ronaldo.
Good work.
Yeah, great work. So yeah, I've now climbed up to second. Kieran's. Funny you should say that because as the week goes, Fifey is the top scorer so far this week.
What?
Yeah.
Shut up.
With 48 points. Evident. Oh, you had Ronaldo as captain. Why?
Did I?
Did I?
Steve's given up already.
Yeah. And then
no, I generally look at it once a month and then I'll let it play out for the month because I find when I was transferring players every week, then it wasn't working. So I look at it once a month, let them have a couple of weeks, and then transfer out who's not played well.
Good tactic, mate. Good tactic.
He's giving me second bottom, so yeah, it's excellent tactic.
Ned's second bottom, so.
Oh no!
Yeah.
I'm the top scorer this week.
Oh, here we go.
Sorry,
For
mate, sorry.
fuck's sake.
I've just clicked on my name because
Absolute
obviously,
shambles.
yeah, I'm the top scorer this week with 49. So
I know. I'll make the host look really good by saying he's done really well, and then I'll fucking flatten him by saying, "Oh, actually, no, really, it's me."
yeah, so sorry, mate. Not sorry. But yeah,
sorry.
yeah. So I mean, Kieran was 56 points ahead or whatever, and now he's only going to be 20 or 30. So gap's closing, mate. Don't go all Liverpool on me now and start pretending you've won the league already.
That's Swindon after we beat Bristol City that year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we did win the league.
Nathan Thompson being a knob.
Big one show Gary still bottom.
And we have breaking. Well, I say breaking news. It's exciting news for our massive fan base. With the birthday episode coming up later this week, One Show Gary has assured us he's about to become Two Show Gary by appearing on the birthday episode as one of the many special guests we have lined up for it. So keep your eyes peeled later this week.
Believe it when we see it.
McKirdy coming on.
Have you told him it's fancy dress?
It may have come up in conversation.
Ned's come as Andy Pandy tonight already.
Can you get your hat, Ned? What hat?
No, don't ruin it.
Do you want me to get it?
No. Save it for the birthday episode.
Okay.
You can
got my. So yeah, Fantasy Premier League, Kieran's still top. I'm second. I'm second. Rich is third. Warren's fourth. Ben's fifth. Fifey's sixth. Ned's seventh. And One Show Gary, soon to be Two Show Gary, is eighth. Tune in next week when I score 59 points, Kieran scores 19, and then I go rocketing to the top of the table. Heard it here first. On mute.
Prior to us discussing,
he's a fucking knob at times.
Just before we discuss
Why is that for
Crewe next up, just we could give a shout out to the under 18s and their FA Youth Cup time. Kieran, shut up! There are certain parts of this show that we try and do seriously. Shut the fuck up.
Louis Spence bloody workouts just because you can't wait to see him in Panto.
Want some chicken 69?
Was an Indian 69.
Right, stop it! Just stop it! I want to just take a minute to give a shout out to the under 18s and the FA Cup tie. If we can please do that.
FA Youth Cup.
FA Youth Cup. It's not
FA Youth Cup
FA Youth Cup,
tie.
yeah. Get it right.
They play tomorrow night against Winchester.
Yeah, good luck to them.
Good luck, lads.
Because I think the reason I wanted to make sure that was shouted out as well, Fifey, is because I think we've kind of forgotten that after all of this that's going on, we've got youngsters that are still, desperate to play for Swindon and still coming through. So I genuinely really do hope that they go on a good run in the old Youth Cup.
No, absolutely. Good luck to the team tomorrow. Let's discuss the next game then. As we said, Ben, I will let you go first. You've been waiting patiently to have your say. So please take your moment. What are you expecting?
Crewe away.
Crewe, indeed.
Yeah, Crewe. They got a good fish and chip shop next to Crewe, actually. They couldn't manage the ground. Proper, really nice one. They're struggling in League One, aren't they? So I expect actually to do quite well because I suspect they'll prioritise a little bit. They might rest some players. I think we'll go there reasonably strong, especially I suspect we'll have some players missing for the following week. So yeah, I think we can go with quite some confidence, and we'll play a Crewe team that probably really aren't that interested in this competition because they've got bigger worries to worry about, which much like us in previous seasons. So I'm quite hopeful. Actually, we'll do a very rare thing and win a cup game, an actual meaningful cup game, make it to the second round. Wow, it'd be great.
Ned?
I think we're going to win as well. I do feel sorry for Crewe because their model of a football club is essentially they bring the youngsters through and then they sell them off. And they've really struggled this season because they sold off all their decent players, didn't they? Really, I think one of their main players, Tom Lowry, who was really good, he's been injured, and also apparently he's had wordings with his agent, and he's already signed for someone else on the sly. So I don't think he hasn't been playing much, and when he has been playing, he's been playing as if he's got his mind on something else as well. So I do feel sorry for them this year because they are getting absolutely whooped in that division. They've only won one game this season. That was that was back on September the 18th, when they beat Burton 2-0 at home, and Burton were down to 10 men. So yeah, they're pretty shite. However, they have several players who always play well against us. They had, honestly, don't they? Michael Mandron always seems to play well against Swindon. Chris Porter always seems to play well against Swindon. Callum McFadzean always seems to play well against Swindon. And Jaskalainen always seems to be better. He plays better than his dad when he plays against Swindon. So I think, it depends, obviously, what team both teams put out, but we've got so much going for us at the moment. Our away form's fantastic. I think we'll come out, win the game. Don't know by how many, probably 2-0 or something, 3-0. But yeah, if we play like the second string, I still think we've got more than enough to beat him. They're shocking.
Kieran, if I can interrupt you scrolling through your many Tinder dates to offer your opinion on what's going to happen.
It's just checking out what a chicken 69 is.
We're going through my door in a minute. Yeah, I'm sure that's illegal.
The thing is, the problem with these in-jokes when you do them on the recording is no one knows what you've been talking about before you hit record. Now you all just look fucking weird.
The donkey fucking Roger and a chicken or something, I don't know. I love the FA Cup, and I don't know why, because we're always fucking horrendously shit at it, because we've got a bunch of cunts like the year we lost 5-0 to fucking Chelsea. Fucking bastards. But I love the FA Cup. It'd just be typical us to think that we're going to go and beat Crewe because they're doing shit in League One, much like that Johnston's Paint fucking trophy final when Chesterfield were doing shit in League One. Thought we'd steamroll and they beat us because they're used to it. But I think in the grand scheme of things, I think we've got enough to beat Crewe. It's not at home, which gives us a better chance to win the game. I really want us to go on a decent FA Cup run because the best FA Cup run I've seen us go on was the one where we got to we beat Wigan, who were shit anyway.
They were the holders.
Yeah, I know they weren't. No, they weren't.
Oh, have I gone too early?
Because then they didn't lose a game for 2 years after that.
That's it, yeah.
We were the last team to beat in the FA Cup, and we're better than Man City. Boom! Fuck you Blue City cunt. I really like FA Cup. I think we've got enough to win it, and I think, as Ben said, I think they might rotate and use it to rest some players up. I don't really know anything about them because I couldn't give a fuck about them, and I think we'll go beat them about 3-4-0.
I mean, what I love more than anything about these episodes is the level of professionalism and in-depth research that everyone does before coming live on camera. Woody, your turn. Are you as confident as the other guys? Yes, Ned, I know you put the effort in and do the research.
I'm confident. I don't think they will field a weakened side. I don't think they've got a squad strong enough to do so. Crewe are one of those sides. I agree with Ned. I quite like the way that they do bring in their academy. They have still got, even though League One, they still got arguably one of the best academies in the country in terms of the way it's set up and the way they bring them through and all this kind of stuff. I am confident we're going to win. I think we'll win comfortably, 2 or 3-0. It's just I'm with Kieran. I love the magic of the FA Cup. Yeah. In fact, I like any competition with FA in front of it. Really, the trophy, the vase. I love all of those, and the thing is okay, we don't have a good history in it, but we need to take it seriously because it's money. At the end of the day, it's more money. We might not, of course, who knows, but we won't win the thing. But it's we'll comfortably win. I don't think Crewe will play a weakened side. I just think we'll be stronger than them. It's on the road. We've got the momentum. They haven't, and I think that's the only reason we're going to win. The league position, as we know, league position doesn't really matter when it comes to the FA Cup. It's about on the day, and I've got a feeling, even though I wouldn't want to see us at a playoff final, I've got a feeling we've got more players that could rise to an occasion in this squad, and the FA Cup is definitely an occasion. So I think we'll be all right. I think 2 or 3-0.
Before I let you disappear and enjoy what's left of your Monday evenings, we as always put out a tweet for questions and comments in the mailbag. And once again, Ben's decided he wanted to ask himself a question by replying.
To it.
So I will just get the official wording of how he's done this, and then I will ask all of you gentlemen how you would like to respond. He asked 2 questions specifically. So I will go as you appear on the screen. So Kieran, this is question 1. With our away form being 6 wins from 8, but our home form showing only 1 win all season, all things considered, what would your last meal be if given the choice?
It would be an Indian.
I knew it was coming. I don't know why I asked.
It sounds delightful. Apparently, it's just like sweet and sour chicken, but it's called an Indian. So I do want to see what this is all about.
Ned?
Oh Jesus! I really like a dinner that my missus makes. It's like stuffed chicken breast
Someone's
in the
trying
room.
to
With
stay
cream
in the
cabbage.
room, aren't they?
No, she's a great cook. I love her. That's all I'm saying.
Do we get any more information on what this meal is?
No, you don't.
It's stuffed with chicken stuffed with like Philadelphia style cream cheese type thing, wrapped in bacon, and then with creamed cabbage with bacon and stuff. It's bloody lush.
Okay.
But yeah, there we go.
And Woody?
Enjoy that information, Ben.
Cheers.
Woody?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just a curry fan, me. It would have to be probably a good old chicken dansack, spicy chicken dansack. That'll do me for my last meal. Yeah.
Ben, you asked the question, but you've got to answer it as well.
Well, do you know, it would probably be, I like a proper good rack. I mean, a proper barbecue spare ribs with thin chips, but, dripping. So the barbecue.
Sarah, can you confirm or deny this?
Rack of ribs.
For what it's worth, I'd probably go for like a full-on carvery myself as a last meal. I'm a fan of a proper big roast dinner myself. So his more serious question, Kieran, is what are the 3 biggest plus points of the season so far, and what are the 3 most worrying negatives that need addressing?
The 3 biggest plus points, I think that we're playing some very, very nice football. I think that it is starting to seemingly come together. I think another big plus point is the recruitment. We've seemed to have done this very, very, very well this year, which is better than previous years. I know it's under a previous regime, but it seems like we've got that. We've done them very, very well, despite being short in a couple of areas. But I think you can look at after every transfer window, you could be short in a couple of areas. And I think the other thing is that how little injuries that we've had. With the sports sciences people that we've done this year and the new medical department and stuff that they've changed up, they've done very, very well in that. The negatives, that we're shit at home. Our players are sometimes a bit sexist on Twitter, and it's hard to find another thing, and that we didn't maybe sign another striker in the transfer window. But I think that was it. I think it's hard to. I think it's hard to find 3 negatives, which isn't a bad thing. Maybe
especially
Actually, maybe it took so long to get a beer in the Don Rogers. That's probably the negative, other than the striker.
Especially when I'm throwing these questions at you and not telling you I'm going to ask them and giving you time to prep, it makes it a bit harder, doesn't it?
Like we have an agenda normally. You actually don't just tell us; you just whip it out. Just whip it out.
Ned, would you alter any of the 3 positives or negatives that Kieran has mentioned there?
To be honest, I mean, Kieran's nailed it. Honestly, my one was going to be about the queuing, but he slipped that in at the end, just like a chicken 69. But I don't know.
That's the name of the show, by the way.
I can't think of much else. Can you come back to me?
Of course. Woody?
Thank you.
Positives, recruitment, as Kieran said, I agree with. Sponsorship and revenue that we're raising is very good. The community feel as well, despite knobheads at the weekend. Negatives, probably that although it's going really well, there is still a lot more to be done that we probably don't know about yet, and it makes me a little bit nervous.
Mhm.
We're still in debt at the end of the day, but I don't think we know a football club that isn't in debt.
Mhm.
Negative, yeah, the home form is pretty disappointing. But then on the way of that, the positive is that we're away form is so good, and the away fan base is fantastic as well. So yeah, it's that is 3 negatives, isn't it?
Yeah. Ben?
I think one of the positives is the fan base, the support. And even though we've been so shit at home, which is one of the negatives we had, I can't remember the last time but probably some bad days of Paolo, we've been so consistently turning up in high numbers, and especially when we've had no away fans. We've had 9,000, 9,500 when we've been playing Bristol Rovers in the past. Now we're doing it when we're playing bloody Macclesfield or whoever. So that's an absolutely brilliant effort and a top effort from the Swindon fans, home and away. We constantly selling out away days. They oversell us, and that could be a negative. That's not our fault, but not fans turning up and not actually getting to watch the game, which is a bit poor. One negative I don't think it's much on is the admin side, something that's taken a bit longer to sort out. For example, trying to get hold of the club on the phone is an absolute fucking nightmare. You're trying to buy some tickets over the phone. I thought my dad to come with me because we've got season tickets. So I'm trying to add tickets onto him. I'm on the phone for about 40 minutes. I ended up trying to email him, and the head ticketing actually rang me back, which was quite nice of him. But yeah, it's a pain in the ass. So there's a few things like that need addressing. One thing I did notice, you remember we all went to Rochdale, the home game of Rochdale. Not all the turnstiles have opened, which my son pointed out when we were in the queue. The queue moved quickly, but not all the turnstiles have opened. So maybe they could look into that when shortening the queues.
That happened at Bradford as well, to be fair.
Yeah.
We were waiting outside Bradford. The queues were massive in the Don Rogers. I mean, we were queuing up from about 20 past. Yeah, and then all of a sudden they decided, oh, hold on a minute, we got 20 minutes to kick off. We'll open up the other turnstiles now. I just don't understand why they didn't do that sooner. It just seems a bit strange.
So that's something. So a little better. So there's stuff behind the scenes in the ground that could be done a bit better. That surprised it's not been dealt with quicker, I should say, like the phone lines and stuff like that, which you think could be dealt with pretty quickly. But I don't run a football club and I don't have a clue how to. And there's good people running the club, so I guess it's more complicated than initially thought. But there's a lot to be chuffed about. We could do another striker, but I think on the field's pretty good. Off the field's okay, apart from McKirdy's being a knob. I think it's a lot to be pleased about.
Ned, did you have a chance to think of anything else you wanted to add to either side of the debate?
Well, I mean, I guess is that all the negatives are easily changeable. So that's a positive in itself. And I just want to say as well, Rob Angus is a massive, massive positive. It's like having a. It's like having a. No, that's a really bad analogy. Let's not get down that way. He's absolute breath of fresh air. it's like how he was at Nationwide, but he's treating it at Swindon Town, and it's very odd because you don't see that in the football club. It's all clear. It's everything is just, it's well run, willing to listen. I think he's an absolute legend, and for me, he's one of the biggest positives of this year. I've got to be honest.
Yeah.
And never afraid of a bit of selfless self-promotion. I'm going to throw in a positive this podcast, because it might not be the most professionally produced, highest budget thing ever done in the world, but every week I have a right laugh chatting to you guys, and as we've said before, it's just like mates down the pub talking football, and that's why I enjoy doing it every week, and that's why I hope that those that do watch it every week and have commented on our social media and stuff, we hope you enjoy it as much as we enjoy making it. Keep your eyes peeled over the week, because there'll be various tweets and stuff going out, and there's a special bonus episode as we celebrate our first birthday.
Yeah.
We're all going through a whole year of us chatting shit about Swindon Town.
We're going to Gibraltar to do a live episode. God.
On just on the. Sorry,
Willie.
Fofi, just on the note before you close off, I know we don't get as loads of millions of viewers, but just thousands. Just want to send my best out to the people that are involved with the Salisbury train crashes as well.
Yeah.
Colleagues of our very own Craig as well. I know not direct colleagues, but just sending my best out, because I know there's been some developments of that over the time. The last couple of days.
Sending our best to everyone involved in that, and sending our best, of course. But yes, again, thank you for anyone who takes the time to watch and listen to us, whether it's this episode or you've done it at any point over the last year. Saturday, we'll see our birthday episode where we have special guests, unique content, and I'm sure the usual high-class conversation that you've come to love and listen to. Until next time, see you later.